There's 1 week in your life that quietly decides how much tax you'll pay for the next 10 years. Most people walk right past it. They think retirement is a date on a calendar, the day the paychecks stop, the day the fishing starts. But the IRS doesn't see a fishing trip. It sees a door swing open. And here's the part nobody warns you about. A few years later, that door quietly closes. And it does not open again. The week you stop working isn't the end of your working life. It's the start of the most valuable tax window you will ever get. And almost nobody uses it. I'm Arthur. I spend my days helping regular people figure out how to make ordinary money last through a retirement that could run 30 years. And if there's one thing I wish everyone understood before they handed in their notice, it's this. The years right after you stop working, before Social Security is fully on, before the government forces you to pull money out of your retirement accounts, those are the lowest tax years you will ever have again in your life. Not this year, not next year, ever again. Most people spend those years doing nothing. They sit still, they wait, they feel proud that their income is low and their tax bill is small, and that quiet, low-income window, the single most powerful tool in the entire tax code for a retiree, slips by completely unused. Let me show you exactly what's happening and why the timing can come down to something as small as 1 week. First, let's clear up what actually changes when you stop working, because it's not what most people think. The IRS does not stamp a permanent label on your file the day you retire. Your tax rate isn't frozen. There's no retiree switch that flips and locks. Anyone selling you that story is overselling it. What actually happens is quieter and more important. When your paycheck stops, your income usually drops hard. But the machines that push income back onto your tax return haven't switched on yet. Required withdrawals from your retirement accounts? For most people, those don't start until age 73, 75 if you were born in 1960 or later. Social Security? You may be delaying it, letting it grow. So for a few years, often the stretch between your last paycheck and your mid-70s, you're sitting in a valley, low income, low brackets, wide open space at the bottom of the tax code that you may never see again. That valley is the window. And what you do inside it echoes for the rest of your life. Now, before I go further, I put the full playbook for these exact years into a short, plain English guide called You Don't Need 2 Million. It lays out the order to pull your money in retirement so you don't hand the IRS more than you have to. The link's in the description if you want it. It's cheap, it's short, and it's written for careful savers, not millionaires. But stay with me, because the first mistake happens before you even file your first retirement tax return. Here's the thing that catches people. The year you stop working still has your salary in it. Say you retire in the middle of the year. January to June you were earning. That income is real, it's on your return, and it can push you into a higher bracket for that one final year. And here's where the timing turns sharp. Medicare looks back 2 years to decide what you pay. The premium you're charged at 65 is based on your income from when you were 63. So that final working year, the one still stuffed with salary, can quietly raise your Medicare premiums 2 years down the road. For some people, that's more than $1,000 a year per person that they never saw coming. And this is where a single week starts to matter. If you retire in late December instead of early January, you're shifting a chunk of income out of one tax year and into the next. Same job, nearly the same last day. But one version piles your final paycheck, your payout for unused vacation, maybe a last bonus, all into a year that already holds 11 months of salary. The other version drops it into a fresh, nearly empty year. 1 week, two completely different tax pictures. Now, some good news most people never hear. If your income falls because you retired, you can appeal those higher Medicare premiums. There's a form for it. Retirement counts as a life-changing event, and Social Security can use your newer, lower income instead. So that particular door isn't sealed shut, but he tried, and this part matters. The appeal only covers income you didn't choose. If you sold stock or moved money around on purpose and it spiked your income, there's no appeal. That one's on you. Which brings us to the real prize sitting inside this window. Remember that valley, the low-income years before, required withdrawals and Social Security fill your return back up? While you're down in that valley, there's room at the bottom of the tax code. Room in the low brackets, just sitting there empty. The smartest move a lot of retirees can make is to deliberately fill that room. Not by spending, by moving money. You take money out of your traditional retirement account, where every dollar is going to be taxed eventually, and you move it into a Roth, where it grows tax-free and never gets taxed again. You pay the tax now on purpose, while your bracket is unusually low. That's called a Roth conversion. And the window right after you stop working is the best time in your entire life to do it. Why? Because in a few years, the government starts forcing money out of those traditional accounts, whether you want it out or not. Those required withdrawals land on top of your Social Security. Your income floor rises permanently. The valley fills in. What used to be taxed in a low bracket is now taxed in a higher one. The room at the bottom of the tax code doesn't just shrink, it disappears. And it doesn't come back. That is the door closing. The person who spent their quiet valley years steadily moving money into a Roth walks into their 70s with a large pool of money the IRS can never touch again. The person who sat still walks into their 70s with a growing tax bill that follows them for the rest of their life and gets handed to their kids on top of it. Same savings, same starting point, completely different ending. Decided by what they did or didn't do in a window most of them never knew was open. And right now, there's an extra reason to pay attention. For the next few years through 2028, there's a special bonus deduction for people 65 and older, up to $6,000 per person, stacked right on top of your regular deductions. It makes these low-income years even cheaper to work with than usual, but it comes with a catch that ties this whole thing together. That bonus deduction fades as your income climbs and vanishes completely at higher incomes. So if you get greedy and convert too much in 1 year, you can push your income up high enough to lose the very deduction that made the year so friendly in the first place. Here's the whole game in one sentence. It's not about doing as much as possible. It's about doing the right amount in the right year in the right order. Too little, and you waste the window. Too much, and you trip over the next threshold. Higher Medicare premiums, a lost deduction, more of your Social Security getting taxed, and the people who get this right aren't the ones with the most money. I want to be clear about that because it surprises just about everyone. A retiree with $800,000 who plans these years carefully can easily keep more of their own money than a retiree with $2 million who just lets it ride and then gets hit year after year with forced withdrawals, higher premiums, and a bigger tax bill. Money doesn't win retirement. Timing does. So let's go back to where we started. The week you stop working, it isn't magic to the IRS. No secret file, no permanent stamp. That part of the story gets oversold, and now you know why. But the timing around that week is very real. The year your last salary lands. The moment your low-income valley begins. How long it lasts before required withdrawals and Social Security fill it back up. A lot of that is settled by choices you make in the months right around your final day. When you retire on the calendar, when you start Social Security, whether you use those quiet years or sleep straight through them. Get it right, and you spend your 70s and 80s with a lighter tax bill, lower Medicare costs, and a chunk of money the IRS has already agreed it will never tax again. Get it wrong, or just do nothing. And the door closes on the best tax opportunity you were ever going to get. And unlike almost everything else in your finances, this one really doesn't swing back around. That's the line you actually can't uncross. Not the day you retire. The window that opens right after it and quietly shuts a few years later, while most people are looking the other way. If you want the full walkthrough, the order to pull your money, how to size a Roth conversion so you don't trip a threshold, how to think about Social Security timing alongside all of it, I put it in plain English in you don't need 2 million. It's short on purpose, no jargon, no assumption that you've got millions lying around. Just the plan, step by step, for people who save carefully and want to keep as much of it as they can. The link's right below this video. Grab it, read it in an afternoon, and walk into these years knowing exactly what to do with them while the window is still open. I'm Arthur. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next one.